Hello there, this is Christopher's Weekly History Topics for week 29, the week of August 18th to the 24th. For this week, we're going to do the Gunpowder Plot of 1605. Now, for those of you who are British or know of British culture, you'll know about the Gunpowder Plot of 1605 a little bit because of Guy Fawkes Day. I'm just going to go over the overview of it. So, basically, the remnants of it can be found even before King James ascended the throne of England. Ever since Henry VIII broke away from the Catholic Church and made the Church of England, in England there's been rifts between Protestant and Catholics forever. Once Henry dies, his son, who's Protestant, takes over, dies. Then you have Lady Jane Grey, who doesn't become queen. She's called by Mary, who's Catholic, and then her sister rules as a Protestant. And then after Elizabeth, because she has no heir to the throne, she makes kind of a deal with King James V of Scotland. No, not fifth. King James VI of Scotland. In this deal, he will not be upset for Elizabeth killing his mother, Mary, Queen of Scots, and in return, when Elizabeth dies, he will ascend the throne of England. So, going back to James, he's not really liked. He's not liked by Catholics, but he's also not liked by Protestant Englishmen, mainly because even though King James I of England is Protestant, he's not Church of England Protestant. He's a Presbyterian, part of the Scottish Church, the Church of Scotland, and that is kind of a problem for the English people. You have English Catholics don't like him because he's a Protestant, but even English Protestants don't like him because he's part of that Scottish kirk of Presbyterianism, and they just don't like him. So what happens is, after he comes to the throne in 1603, after Elizabeth dies, there's going to be a lot of tension in England, and one of these tensions happens in 1605. A group of English Catholics really do not like him, and in 1605, in January, there's going to be a big opening of Parliament. Every January there's a big opening of Parliament, and the king was going to be there. So what these Catholic Englishmen came up with is they would hire an explosives expert from, I think, the south of England, named Guy Fawkes, who was also a Catholic, and he would supply the gunpowder. And back in those days, the Houses of Parliament, you can easily rent a section of the basement under Parliament, and that's what he did. He rented a basement. He rented part of the basement under Parliament, and he stacked the gunpowder in barrels. Now, he didn't say it was gunpowder, though. He said, I think it was stocks, picnics, stuff like that. So he was able to stock the gunpowder in early 1605. But the only problem was, that year in early 1605, a big plague was throughout London area, and King James I thought that it wasn't the most healthy place to hold Parliament, so he postponed Parliament for later that year. And what happened was the conspirators had to rethink their whole entire plan. Gunpowder, as you know, if you're into guns and stuff like that, it doesn't last very long. Eventually, if you keep kegs of gunpowder in a basement especially back then, it would eventually go bad, and to the point where if you light it, it won't go off. So Guy Fawkes goes down one day, and he sees, after a few weeks, that the gunpowder is useless, and he has to reorder all of his gunpowder and put it back on the day that, a few weeks before the rescheduled date in November. So what happens with the plot? Well, the conspirators, while Fawkes is planning this, the conspirators are gaining a lot of Catholic sympathizers in England and in Scotland. They are drawing more to their side, and in a sense, this is going to be their downfall doing this, because one of them, his name is Francis Tresham, and he has a brother who is in Parliament, named Lord, I forget his name, but he's a lord. And he sends a letter to his brother-in-law saying, hey, you know what, we have this thing planned, we're going to blow up Parliament, and I want you to live because you're family, so, don't go to Parliament that day and stay home. Well, the message arrives to the Lord, the Catholic Lord, and he reads it and sees trouble afoot. So what he does is, this Lord, since he was Catholic, he wasn't really liked in the House of Lords in Parliament. So what he did to make him more popular and less hated in Parliament, he sent a message to the king saying, hey, I have some information. These Catholics are going to blow up Parliament, and you have to watch out because they're going to kill you and your government. So this tip was given to the king, and when Guy Fawkes went on November the 5th, on the evening of November the 4th, I should say, to light the fuses, he was surprised by guards, the king's guards, and he was taken. What happens then? The plotters, even though they have heard of Guy Fawkes' capture, they still try to go along with the plot anyway. What happens is, what their original plan was, after Fawkes blew up Parliament and the king was dead, they were going up to the north of England where they knew they were Catholics, and they were trying to start a rebellion, a Catholic rebellion of the country. And so even though they heard that Guy Fawkes was captured and it failed, this shows how crazy they were. They thought that they could still have a Catholic rebellion even though Parliament wasn't blown up and King James was still alive. So when they tried to go to the north of England where they knew there was Catholic sympathizers, and they tried to go door to door, trying to get a rebellion set up, but none of the English Catholics wanted to sympathize with them because they knew that they would be signing their death warrants if they sympathized with them. So everywhere they went, they would be like, no, I don't want to be with you, no, you're wanted for death, I don't need that. So we have the strife, and it fails. So we fast forward after November to January of 1606, and this is when Guy Fawkes was basically hung at the stake. Not hung at the stake, but hung at the gallows. And then it's because of this, King James I of England becomes more popular after the Gunpowder Plot. Before, even English Protestants were like, well, I don't really think James is good, no, I don't care for him. But after the Gunpowder Plot, James's popularity really rises up, and he's really liked in England up until the end of his reign in 1625 when his son Charles I takes over. But then again, this still doesn't end the Catholic-Protestant fight in England because of future conflicts with his son, Charles the First, and all that other stuff. And then you got now.